Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt the NFL Fanatic giving you my Week 8 2019 NFL predictions. Well, this past week for the Fanatic, it was definitely a more positive week to pick both games against the spread and straight up. I swore out to an 8-1 start straight up through the 1 o'clock games. The prime time and 4 o'clock games definitely disappointed me, only getting one of those right with New Orleans beating Chicago 36-25. So I ended up going 1-3 from the late afternoon in primetime game to finish it 9-4 straight up. But overall, though, for the week going against the spread straight up, it was a good week. So last week's record, to say it again, last week against the spread, I have gone 8-5. And straight up, I have gone 9-4. And just a reminder for everybody tonight, I am taking the New England Patriots to win here straight up against New York Jets. But the Jets are 10-point favorites, and I'm going to take the Jets plus 10. So now overall for the year, against the spread and straight up, I am 61-43-1 against the spread, which equals 58.6%. And straight up for the year now, I am 66-38-1, which equals 63.3%. Definitely, I'd like to improve those numbers, and they moved up incrementally so, and it was good to have that, but I'd like to have more of that, consistent increase, more of the double-digit wins both against the spread and straight up. Hopefully I can get that tonight to get straight up with the Patriots beating the Jets. But overall, though, 58.6% against the spread and 63.3% straight up. A pretty solid year for my standards, and I will take that, and I hope to continue to improve that this coming week. Alright, but what a wild week in the NFL. There were definitely a lot of teams that moved up in some ways, moved back, and there's just a lot of parity going on, in my opinion, just of how the league's going. I want to congratulate Aaron Rodgers for having the first perfect passer rating in Green Bay Packers history, with his 6 touchdown performance, over 400 yards passing. He was sensational. There really wasn't anything bad that he could do. And basically the difference in the game was Derek Carr, for the second time in 3 years, getting a touchback through diving the football out of the end zone and fumbling out of the end zone. That was the difference in the game, because the Packers were going to score 14 more points, and it was 28-10 from that moment on. And that game really wasn't even close. But I was just really impressed with the Packers, and I think that, they are a genuine Super Bowl threat. I want to congratulate the Saints for getting to 5-0 without Drew Brees. I don't think anybody expected that. Teddy Bridgewater had about 280 yards passing, 2 TDs, no picks, another solid performance. No Alvin Kamara, no problem. Latavius Murray goes in and has about 170 yards from scrimmage. And it was just a really decisive game. I think that some of it, though, has to go with how inept the Bears' offense was. Matt Nagy ran for a grand total of 7 attempts running throughout the game. That is the lowest amount of attempts ran by a Bears team in franchise history. And Trubisky, this Bears offense has not been able to put up 300 yards of offense the entire year. And going into before the final 2 drives, they had 120 yards of total offense, which was stunning to me, knowing how bad the Bears were. But I do want to give credit to the Saints. I feel like, again, consistent football, running effectively, being able to manage the game well, not that many turnovers, and just stifle the Bears' offensive attack was really impressive. And I have to give New Orleans their credit. And then if you look at some of the other games, Baltimore was really good. I was very surprised with how the Ravens were able to beat the Seahawks the way they did. The difference was in the turnovers. Marcus Peters, the cornerback we got from the Rams on Tuesday, had his 25th career pick, his 5th pick 6, which is the most in the league. And then he also was just able to do that right off the bat, in his first game against a team that just 2 weeks ago he got burned by Russell Wilson. So that was incredibly impressive. And then Marlon Humphrey getting the fumble return touchdown, 2 big defensive touchdowns, really sealed the game. And it was a difference in the game, in my opinion. Though also I think Lamar Jackson, who is leading the league in yards per rush attempted of over 6 yards a carry. He had another 117 yards. He's been the leading rusher in the NFL the last 3 weeks, and he's actually 6th overall in rushing, which is stunning to me. But I have to give the Ravens credit. I think it's a big win for them. It puts them right now in the 3 seed in the AFC playoff picture. The Bengals lost, and the Browns Steelers are on a bye, so that gives another game of cushion. And definitely with them getting the bye this week, it definitely gives them some relaxing comfort before they have to play their toughest game of the year when the Patriots come in the town in 2 weeks on Sunday Night Football. And one more thing, and I'll talk about the rest of the games. I do want to congratulate the Colts for getting a very impressive win over the Houston Texans, 30-23. Jacoby Brissett, 326 yards, 4 TDs, no picks, played a flawless game, and I was really surprised with how Houston played because I didn't think their defense, their secondary would be this bad. I know they got Jonathan Joseph back, and I know they didn't have Roby, but I know they had some other injuries. Will Fuller couldn't finish the game. But it was just real surprising how effectively Brissett was able just to move the ball with Pascal. T.Y. Hilton, another game with a touchdown against the Texans defense. That's what he always seems to do, apparently. But I do want to give the Colts a lot of credit, and Frank Reich and his staff a lot of credit for playing as well as they have, especially with Andrew Luck retiring. I don't think anybody expected the Colts to be in this position at 4-2, leading the AFC South with their backup quarterback, Brissett, playing as well as he has. So I want to give kudos to the Colts there. All right, so before I get into my picks, one more thing. The buys this week are the Baltimore Ravens, as said before, and the Dallas Cowboys. So if you have Lamar Jackson, the Ravens defense, Mark Ingram, Hollywood Brown, the Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Cowboys defense, Brett Maher, who is the first kicker in NFL history to hit 3 60-plus yard field goals in his career, so kudos to him. And he kicked the longest field goal in Cowboys franchise history last night at 63 yards. So if you have any of those players on your teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. Again, it is the Ravens and the Cowboys are the teams that are on bye this week. All right, it's time for my picks for each game. So this Thursday, when the 1-6 Washington Redskins go to the 5-2 Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings are 15.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Minnesota Vikings here to win straight up, but I'll take Washington plus 15.5. The next game, when the 5-2 Seattle Seahawks go to the 1-6 Atlanta Falcons, the Seahawks are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Seattle here -3, and Seattle straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-4 Philadelphia Eagles go to the 5-1 Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Bills are 1.5-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo here -1.5, and Buffalo straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-4 Los Angeles Chargers go to the 3-3 Chicago Bears, the Chicago Bears are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like Chicago here straight up, but I will take the Los Angeles Chargers plus 4.5. Then the next game, when the 2-5 New York Giants go to the 2-3-1 Detroit Lions, the Detroit Lions are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Detroit here -7, and Detroit straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 3-4 Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Titans are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee here -2.5, and Tennessee straight up. And then the next game, when the 0-7 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 4-3 Los Angeles, or go to London to play the 4-3 Los Angeles Rams, the LA Rams are 13-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here -13, and the LA Rams straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-1 Arizona Cardinals go to the 6-1 New Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Saints are 9.5-point favorites in this game. I like New Orleans here to win straight up, but I'll take Arizona plus 9.5. Then the next game, when the 2-4 or 1-5 New York Jets go to the 3-4 Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets are 4.5-point underdogs in this game. I will take the New York Jets here plus 4.5, and the New York Jets straight up for an upset. Then the next game, when the 2-5 Denver Broncos go to the 4-2 Indianapolis Colts, The Indianapolis Colts are 6-point favorites in this game. I like Indianapolis here, -6. And Indianapolis straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-2 Carolina Panthers go to the 6-0 San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like San Francisco here straight up, but I'll take Carolina plus 5.5. Then the next game, when the 3-3 Oakland Raiders go to the 4-3 Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like Houston here -6.5, and Houston straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-4 Cleveland Browns go to the 7-0 or 6-1 New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 10.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New England Patriots here to win straight up, but give me the Cleveland Browns plus 10.5. Then the next game, when the 6-1 Green Bay Packers go to the 5-2 Kansas City Chiefs. The Green Bay Packers are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay here -4.5, and Green Bay straight up. And then finally, in the Monday night game, when the 0-6 Miami Dolphins go to the 2-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 14.5-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh here to win straight up, but give me the Miami Dolphins plus 14.5. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Vikings over Washington. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings here because I have been really impressed with Kirk Cousins over the last 3 weeks. He's thrown 10 TDs to 1 interception. He's the first Vikings quarterback since Dante Culpepper to have 4 TDs in back-to-back games. And it was really impressive what the Vikings did against the Lions. They put up 42 points on the Lions defense, a unit that a lot of people thought was one of, a solid unit. I know Darius Slay and Damon Harrison, Snacks Harrison, left the game, but that really didn't matter. But also for the Vikings, Adam Thielen, after catching the first touchdown of the game, he ended up going out of a hamstring injury. They believe he should be able to play, and that should be good enough to definitely help the Vikings offense a lot. But I was just really impressed of how the Vikings consistently played. I know Dan Bailey missed a kick, and that was tough, so that would be something to watch. But also the Redskins, Dustin Hopkins missed a 30-something yard field goal. I know it was raining, and from the remnants of the tropical storm, from the tropical storm that was coming up. But that really wasn't that impressive. And the way the Redskins played, it just felt like that every time, even though the Redskins defense did an outstanding job and pitched a shutout, and it was the first game since Week 15 of 2017 to have a 0-0 score going into halftime, I just think the Vikings, they'll be able to move the ball more effectively. I think that, again, you have Dalvin Cook, who's leading the league in rushing. The Redskins really haven't been able to stop anybody from running and throwing the football. I think Kirk Cousins has a much better arsenal of weapons, or much better talent arsenal of weapons. Remember, just 2 weeks ago, they have 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to Ryan Fitzpatrick. They were 1 2-point conversion away from losing that game to the winless Dolphins. I think the Vikings here should be able to have a nice, effective game. Also, there will be extra motivation for Kirk Cousins getting to play his former team for the first time in the Redskins. But the biggest reason why I'm taking Washington here on the line is that, first of all, I think it is too big and it's a primetime game. Kirk Cousins has one of the worst primetime records in all of football. I think he's only won 3 or 4 games in primetime in his career, I believe. But I know he has one of the worst primetime records. So I'm going to trust that to say to the Redskins that they'll be able to, with that defense, be able to hold the Vikings in check to keep it within 2 scores. It will be interesting, though, because I feel like, again, this should be a nice, easy walkthrough game for the Vikings. Kyle Rudolph made some big plays. I don't even think they need Thielen, and the Redskins really don't have that much offensive firepower besides Adrian Peterson and Terry McLaurin. But I'm going to take the Redskins here against the spread just because I don't trust Cousins in a primetime game. And just kind of how, like, what happened with the Niners, I could see a similar effect happening with the Vikings here, that the Redskins defense will play well enough that the Vikings may just be getting field goals, and the Redskins will get some points to keep it within the 2-score margin. Because remember, the Niners were 10-point favorites just last week, and they ended up losing that even though they shut them out because it was a 9-0 game. So the Redskins have been able to show that they've covered double-digit spreads before. I'm going to take Kirk Cousins and his primetime efforts to say that they're able to cover another one by a 15.5-point mark. So that's why I like the Minnesota Vikings here straight up, but the Washington Redskins plus 15.5. The next game, the Seahawks over the Falcons. This one is fairly easy to me. Atlanta has just fallen apart. I mean, there's like all this talent defensively. I know they don't have Keanu Neal and Desmond Trufant missed the last 2 games, but you still have Vic Beasley. You still have Vic Beasley, Deion Jones, Grady Jarrett. You have a lot of talented defensive players. You have Julio, Matt Ryan, who ended up getting hurt with an ankle injury, so I don't even know he's going to play. And you have all this talent, and they have a grand total of 1 win. And in basically most of their games this year, they've either gone full embarrassment or they've gone full Chargers and choked games away. Looking at how Jared Goff played, he went, had 280 yards of offense, 2 TDs. He also rushed in for another TD. Todd Gurley got his first receiving TD of the year. He actually has the second most receiving TDs in the last 3 seasons. Only Christian McCaffrey has more in the last 3 years. And looking at the Seattle team, a team that surprisingly at home, I believe they're gonna go for their first 4-0 road start ever in franchise history. But they've shown to play better on the road. It's weird because Seattle, I always used to thought would have one of the best home field advantages and was shaky at 500 at best on the road. But yeah, I think that Seattle, they'll be able to kind of get more confidence against an Atlanta defense that's hobbled, that's unmotivated, that might not have their starting quarterback. Devontae Freeman got ejected for punching a ref, or for punching Aaron Donald. Ito Smith had a head injury. And I just really have no confidence in Atlanta. And usually with the Seahawks and Falcons, the Falcons have won more games against the Seahawks over the last few years. But with how Atlanta's playing right now, without their backup quarterback, I think Seattle will be able to bounce back pretty well. Russell Wilson in his career is 22-7-1 all time when he comes off a loss. So I think for the Seahawks, they should be able to comfortably get this win. And just for the Falcons, I think Dan Quinn's job at the end of the year will be gone. I think he'll be able to survive through the bye week of everything he's done. But I think at the end of the year of how bad they're playing and how lifeless they look, he is going to be terminated from his job as the Falcons coach. I think that is one of the more enviable jobs because of talent. And maybe with new confidence, it will inspire it. But I think with this Seattle team, knowing that they have to keep pace with the Vikings and with the rest of the NFC in general, I think they go into Atlanta, get a nice, solid win, and feel some confidence, and get to 4-0 on the road for the first time in franchise history, as weird as that sounds. So that's why I like Seattle here -3, and Seattle straight up. The next game, the Bills over the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, the Philadelphia Eagles got ramrodded last night by the Dallas Cowboys, 37-10. Carson Wentz only threw for 191 yards, had a pick and 2 fumbles. The secondary got shredded again. Dak Prescott threw for about 290 yards, 2 TDs. Zeke had over 100 yards rushing. Tony Pollard was making big plays. And I knew the game was going to get out of hand when on the first 2 possessions for the Eagles, they get a fumble from Dallas Goedert and a strip sack from DeMarcus Lawrence that got turned into 14 points. And that was it. And from that moment on, the game really was never in hand. I thought the Cowboys were able to just get with Randall Cobb. Jason Witten made a few catches. Amari Cooper had 5 receptions for 105 yards. I just thought it was a brutal day for that secondary. And that is a really big concern. For the first time in the Doug Peterson era, the Eagles gave up 30-plus points in back-to-back games. They usually get about 300 yards passing and about 3 TDs against this defense, no matter who they play. And I know that they haven't had Darby. They probably won't have Darby again. Sydney's been inconsistent. Jay just got back Jalen Mills. There's just not a lot of talent there on the corners. Orlando Scandrick's having to play, and they cut him just a couple weeks ago. There's not a lot of talent for me to have confidence in the Eagles that they'll be able to hold up against, most offenses. But it's kind of a weird situation because they're playing a Buffalo Bills team who scored their most season high in points at 31, but they're 5-1 for the first time since 2008. And it was weird because if you watch the Bills, Josh Allen got about 206 yards, 2 TDs, no picks. Frank Gore had about 11 carries for 55 yards. And Micah Hyde with one of the plays of the year, getting an onside kick touchdown, getting the ball bounced up. But the Bills' defense looked a little weak. Ryan Fitzpatrick and Devontae Parker, Kenyon Drake, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki. The Dolphins were able to move the football some on the Bills' defense, which was surprising. But I'm going to take the Bills here because I remember the last time I think Philadelphia won the Buffalo, they lost in 2011. I don't know what happened in 2015. But I just really trust this Bills defense to be able to clamp down on an Eagles offense that really hasn't been able to do anything. I think they'll be able to shut down the run. And I think that with the receivers they have, with Sean Jackson not being there, I think their secondary can hold on a while. And I think the Bills, they'll be able to use Josh Allen's arm and his legs to be able to make off more offensive plays to get them the win. I think the person whoever gets 24 will win the game. And I think the Bills will be able to get about 24 points. And that should be enough going up against the Philadelphia offense that hasn't been really able to run the ball that effectively besides against the Packers and the Jets. And just looking at how the Bills confidently are, I think they're motivated to show people that, the Bills are 5-1 and technically the second best team in the entire AFC behind the New England Patriots, but nobody really wants to give them their proper respect where it's due. Because I think if you look at their competition, they beat up the Jets, they beat up the Giants, they beat Cincinnati. They ended up losing to New England in pretty embarrassing fashion, or in pretty embarrassing offensive fashion. Their defense only held Brady to 16 points. And then you beat up on the Titans, who really are inconsistent, and you beat up on a winless Dolphins team. For the Bills here, they need to get this win to kind of show that, hey, 6-1 is 6-1, and we can, play about anybody. And I think they're going to use that confidence and that momentum and their defensive ability to shut down a hobbled Eagle offensive team. Jason Peters didn't play, which I think was significant, and that'll be something interesting to watch. I think that Darby, I think Deshaun Jackson's injury status will be big. But I just think against this Bills team, knowing how they're able to play football, knowing how little the defensive line Philadelphia is getting pushed and how bad the secondary is, I think Josh Allen will be able to make a few more plays, and the Bills will get Wentz into a turnover or two that seals them this victory to get to 6-1, a rare feat that I can't remember the last time the Bills were able to do. So that's like the Buffalo Bills here, -1.5, and the Buffalo Bills straight up. The next game, the Chargers over the Bears. Oh, I'm sorry. The Bears over the Chargers. I'm taking the Chargers +4.5. The Chicago Bears over the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a game that, honestly, this is head-scratching. This is head-scratching. I don't know who is going to win. Like, Phillip Rivers threw for 329 yards, 2 TDs, and no picks. He had a solid game. But the fact that Melvin Gordon fumbled at the 1-yard line, which was stunning to me. I think there was a stat. They said Melvin Gordon's fumble was the first time a player lost a fumble from inside the red zone when tied or down by 3 or fewer points since Week 9 of 2014, when Colin Kaepernick fumbled the ball at the 1-yard line with the Niners down 13-10 against the Rams. So this is only the second time in 5 years that a player within the 5-yard line being up or down by 3, being down by 3, fumbled the game away to the other team. And this is what the Los Angeles Chargers, a.k.a. Chokers, have done all year. They haven't had Melvin Ingram the last few games. Their kicking's been up and down. And the Titans were able to just move the ball. Ryan Tannehill had a sensational game. 312 yards, 2 TDs, that one strip sack fumble. Corey Davis had 80 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry had a nice 70 to 90 yard game, I believe. And it's just really hard because I'm looking at the Bears and going, the Bears' offense is not that much better. The Bears can't run the ball at all. They're dead last in most NFC offensive categories. Their defense looks gassed just from having to be out there so long. But the only reason why I'm taking the Bears is because they're home. I know the Chargers have been better on the road, and they've shown that, they can win a lot more road games. But going up against this Bears defense, I think that Phillip Rivers and the Chargers will find a way to lose this game, and Rivers will have one more mistake other than one more than Trubisky, which would be the difference in this game. But I'd be surprised at all if the Chargers won this game, not at the slightest. But honestly, with both these bad teams, I had to go with the home team. A little bit strong, a little bit healthier defensive-wise, and I think that hopefully Cohen and Montgomery can get some semblance of a running game going against the beat-up Charger team that lets them guide through the rest of the game. And if it comes down to a kicking battle, I will take Eddie Pinheiro over Chase McCollum any day of the week. This is one of those cruddy toss-up games of the week, but I'm going to take the Bears here because they're home. I'm going to trust their defense a little bit more, and I'm going to trust the Chargers find a way to choke another game instead of the Bears being able to win one in this instance. So that's why I like the Chicago Bears here straight up, but the LA Chargers plus 4.5. The next game, the Lions over the Giants. This is one where finally for a lot of people, and I've heard this on NFL Game Day morning in their new segment, Don't At Me. Kurt Warner said that was the best team in the NFC North, and they really should be 5-0, and that should be, great. After that performance, where they gave up 42 points, Dalvin Cook had 142 yards rushing, Stephon Diggs had another 100-plus yard receiving game. I hope all Lions fans, shout out to Half Moon's pick, sorry buddy, the Lions fans understand that you don't deserve to be undefeated or, being that close. But you are playing, the reason why I'm taking the Lions, though, is because you're playing a Giants team that Daniel Jones line is not protecting him well. He keeps turning the ball over. Jordan Hicks got a big interception. They really couldn't stop the run, so definitely if they can get Kerryon Johnson healthy, I think that should be able to help them be able to run the ball well. And I just really like how the Lions' offense have been moving. Stafford, though, through all his ups and downs, at a good, typical Stafford game. A lot of good yards, 4 TDs, no picks. Marvin Jones became the first player to have multiple 4 TD games for the Lions, I think, in Lions franchise history. Job well done to him. But I am taking the Lions here because they're home. I trust the Lions pass rush to get to Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones going against the defense that has Tracy Walker, Darius Slay, Quandre Diggs. They'll be able to get some pressure and get some turnovers that I don't think the Giants will be able to get with Stafford. We should see, though. It's a real interesting game. Both teams are, a little down on their luck. I think the Lions are, though, the better team. I think they've been more consistent. And for the Giants, it definitely went from a high point of beating the Redskins, going to 2-0, to dropping 3 straight games to get to 2-5. And definitely Daniel Jones, his stock is definitely plummeting, and I think with this game it will continue to show that, you have to still stick with Daniel Jones, but the leash may be just one more year for the Lions' sake. Or for the Giants' sake. So that's why I like Detroit here -7, and Detroit straight up. The next game, the Titans over the Buccaneers. Oh man, this is one where I'm doing basically the same thing with Tampa, Tennessee that I did with the Chargers and the Bears. I'm taking the home team because I feel like after what I saw against Carolina, Tampa's defense is bad. Jameis has led the league in turnovers since 2015, since he's been in the league. And I just really can't trust the Bucs. Or if you're going to tell me, would I rather have somebody that makes too many mistakes or somebody that doesn't take enough as many chances, I'll take the more conservative, more safe approach with the Titans over the aggressive one of the Buccaneers. Do the Bucs have much more offensive talent? Yes, they do. And Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, they have a much better receiving core, and Jameis Winston can throw the football, I think, in pure arm talent better than Ryan Tannehill. But the key thing is Ryan Tannehill is showing you that he really, does not make that many mistakes often, or he's able to bounce back against those mistakes playing the right defense. And after what Jameis did with a 6-interception game, I think the Titans, will be able to kind of hold on and go through a mud fight of a game, if you will, against the Bucs in a competitive game that will get the Titans to 4-4. Also, just a fun fact, by the way, in their first ever game, the Titans took on the Buccaneers. Mariota threw for 4 touchdowns and no picks, and the Titans ended up winning, I believe, 42-14 or 48-14. Just something really impressive. I don't see that similar score happening this Sunday, but I will take the Titans here because they're home. They're more disciplined, and I will take the more conservative quarterback and team over the more aggressive one. Sounds like the Tennessee Titans here -2.5, and Tennessee Titans straight up. The next game, the Rams over the Bengals. This one to me was fairly easy. The Bengals, they've shown you at times that they're better than their 0-7 record, but when Andy Dalton throws two interceptions in the fourth quarter to go, they're already one through. They just really haven't shown anything to show that they can be competitive. AJ Green's not going to be back now until after the bye week, possibly. But I just look at the Rams here. Look, they felt confident. They beat up a Falcon team that really had no defense. Leonard Fournette had over 130 yards rushing on this defense. Do I think Todd Gurley will kind of have those running effects? No, but I think Todd Gurley will be able to have a nice, solid game on the ground, which will help Jared Goff his play action and get the people like Everett, Kupp, Cooks, and Higbee open to move the offense. And I just think with the Bengals, they've been in London before. The Rams won in London last year. I think they'll be able to win again this year. And I just don't think with the Bengals, they're not trying to win. I feel like their talent, especially with no AJ Green, will be able to smother the Bengals offense of what remains of its left. Because Joe Mixon only had about 7 carries for 10 yards. And he really didn't do anything else after that, which was surprising. But I'm going to take the Rams here minus 13. I feel like they got a little bit of confidence back. They're playing a Bengal team, which really is one of the worst in the league. And I think they'll be able to just coast through to a pretty, good win to get to 5-3. So that's like the LA Rams here, minus 13, and the LA Rams straight up. The next game, the New York Jets over the Jaguars. This is a game where I am taking the New York Jets here because of their quarterback. I think Sam Darnold, last year in this game, the Jaguars ended up getting, I believe, 2 or 3 turnovers on Sam Darnold, which was definitely a killer of the game. But it was also one of the very few wins the Jags had remaining after that point in the year. I think Sam Darnold with this Jets team that's a little more motivated now, especially with how they play against New England. I think they'll be a little more motivated to go into Jacksonville and get revenge for what happened just last year. I think with the Jaguars, though, look, Gardner Minshew has done a good job. He had another touchdown game. He ran for a good 20 or 30 yards. And Leonard Fournette is number 2 in the league in rushing. So, to me, I feel like with the Jags that, they can be somewhat competitive against the Jets team that, has shown a little bit of life. We will see how they do on Monday. But I feel like, again, the Jets, they have a little bit of a better running attack. The offensive line's going through some issues, especially with the Kelechi Osemele complaint. I think that is significant. But I will take the Jets here because I believe they just have a little bit of a better quarterback. And I think that their defense will be a little more motivated. And they'll beat up the Jags offense, which is pretty limited right now besides Keelan Cole and Dede Westbrook because Marquise Lee was out of the game the whole game. And I don't know if he's going to play next week against the Jags or against the Jets, but we shall see. So that's like the New York Jets here, plus 4.5, and the New York Jets straight up. The next game, the Colts over the Broncos. This is one where Joe Flacco got sacked a career-high 9 times. The offense really couldn't move the ball. They were down 30-6 at one point. Joe Flacco looks washed up. And they really couldn't run the ball. Vic Fangio, that horrible fake punt, which I didn't quite understand. And I just look at the Denver Broncos here as a lost cause for their season. I think that Drew Lock, after this week, 8 weeks will be up. I feel like it's time for Drew Lock to have his opportunity to go the rest of the year and see what the Broncos have in their second round pick in Drew Lock. But I feel like with Indianapolis, with the way they've been playing, I think Indianapolis now has won 2 of the last 3 meetings against Denver. And I really feel that with how Jacoby's playing, with how the offensive line's playing, and how bad Denver looked, I feel like Marlon Mack should have a great game. I think that Jacoby, will be able to beat up on the secondary, especially their, middle nickel backs and slot corners with Eric Ebron and Doyle. Zach Pascal's having a good game. I think Chris Harris will be able to shut down T.Y. Hilton to a decent degree, but I don't think they'll need him to win this game. In a game where just the Colts have just been more fundamentally consistent. They've been a much more better home team. They've won this year, I guess they've won 2 of their home games this year. Oh, I'm sorry, they've won 1 of their home games this year. The other one was a loss to the Raiders, 31-24. But I'm just going to take Indy here. Stronger coaching staff. their defensive pieces are back, so their defense should be pretty good. And I just trust Jacoby to move the ball more effectively against the Bronco defense than I see Joe Flacco with his limited weapons trying to move the football against the Colts defense. So that's all I like. Indianapolis here -6, and Indianapolis straight up. The next game, the Niners over Carolina. This is one where I really wasn't impressed with how the Niners played against the Redskins to only win 9-0, to only have about 160 yards passing from Garoppolo, and just all the fumbles and the turnovers. It was just ugly, old school football. The Niners were able to win. First 6-0 start since 1990. Really, impressive job by them. I think Carolina has a decent chance to win this game because I feel like they'll be able to run the ball decently or be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively with the talent they have. They'll use McCaffrey out of the backfield. And I think with the Panthers, I don't know about Cam Self. I know Kyle Allen's practicing this week. Cam still hasn't been medically cleared. I think that is incredibly significant. But I just feel like, again, this Kyle Allen run's been great, and he's won his first 5 starts, and they're 5-13 in their last 18 games of all 5 wins going up against Kyle Allen. But if Kyle Allen or Cam Newton get to start, they're playing the best defensive line of football with Buckner, Solomon Thomas, Eric Armstead, and I forget the other one, but I feel like they've done a really good job being able to fundamentally and consistently win games. Could the Panthers make it interesting? Sure. The Panthers, played the Niners in a wildcard game a couple years ago, and it was a really hard-fought game, and I know the Niners ended up winning, but I felt like the Panthers, gave it their best chance. But we shall see. So that's why I like the San Francisco 49ers here straight up at the Carolina Panthers, plus 5.5. The next game, the Texans over the Raiders. I am taking the Houston Texans here just because I saw the Oakland defense against Green Bay. It was awful. They gave over 400 yards, a perfect passer rating, like I said earlier in the video. The thing with Houston, though, I think that people have to realize is that they're pretty banged up, but they may not be as good as people thought they were. That includes me. I thought the Texans should win the AFC South, nor did I think ever in my wildest dreams that the Colts through 6 weeks would be leading the AFC South by a full game. But I feel like with Oakland, you saw their deficiencies. When you're playing a top-level quarterback, he's able to make plays with his feet and his legs that will be able to gash the Raider defense. Do I think the Raiders have a little bit of a chance? Sure. They've surprised me with wins over Chicago. And they've surprised me with wins over Jacksonville. Or wins over, Oakland, win over Indy. Win over Indy, Denver, and Indy, Denver. Trying to think, who was the other team Oakland beat? Chicago, there we go. Indy, Denver, and Chicago. But I'm going to take the Texans here. They should be able to get a little bit of that running game back. Hopefully their offensive line remains healthy. I hope Will Fuller can come back. I hope Kenny Stills can come back. And I really think the Texans should be able to handle their business. It will be interesting, though, because I do want to see how Oakland responds and if they'll be motivated to beat up a Houston team that's a little dejected after losing to Indy. But I doubt it happens. And that's why I'm going to take the Houston Texans here -6.5 and the Houston Texans straight up. The next game, the Patriots over the Browns. This one was fairly easy to me. When you're playing against the Patriots, Bill Belichick has won 19 straight games against first or second year quarterbacks. I look at how the Patriots defense is going, and that Baker Mayfield leads the league in the NFL with picks and total turnovers, is that even if Baker is able to move the ball offensively against his banged up secondary, which he definitely can, Odo not being there with with Baker leading the league in picks at 11, I think that Baker will give the Patriots some extra opportunities to score. And when you're playing against Tom Brady, that's the worst thing that could happen because those games can snowball quickly for the Browns to get out of hand. It should be an interesting game. The reason why I took the Browns plus 10.5 was because of the injuries the Patriots have all across the offensive side of the ball. No Josh Gordon, no Ryan Izzo, no Matt Lacoste. They had to bring back Ben Watson, no Rob Gronkowski, no Trent Brown, no, Edelman's banged up. It's just one of those amazing things to me that, like, with all that going on, I still have to go with the Patriots because they've just proven to be the most consistent team in the NFL for over a decade. And I have to give the Patriots a lot of credit for that. And do I think the Browns can keep them competitive? Sure, they have the offensive firepower to do it. They have some defense, hopefully, with getting Denzel and Greedy back that can give the Patriots a little bit of their run for their money. But I feel like with the Pats, they'll be able to find at least a 10-point cushion to solidify on. They'll keep building on it throughout the game. But I think that should be enough to get the Patriots this win over the Cleveland Browns. So that's why I like the New England Patriots here straight up. I'll take the Cleveland Browns plus 10.5. Final two games. The next one, the Packers over the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes dislocated his patella on Thursday night, and he thinks he can come back with under 3 weeks. That's insane to me. I was surprised by that. I didn't think that with that I thought maybe the Chiefs might try to get a quarterback, but Matt Moore came in, veteran quarterback. He was a guy that actually decided to retire and join the Dolphins as a scout before the Chiefs called him to back up Patrick Mahomes. I think with Matt Moore, that offense is not nearly as good, and I think that's why they're going to lose this game. Do I think Matt Moore can be a little competitive? Sure, he's been around the league. He's learned from systems, he's learned from mistakes. But when you're playing against this Chiefs defense, which is one of the worst in the league, Aaron Rodgers, who had a 6-touchdown game, he may be able to have another one this game against the Chiefs. It's going to be hard to remember. I can't remember the last time. I think maybe it was 2015 or 2017, the last time the Chiefs lost 3 straight games at home. But I think with Rodgers, with how they're going, with how their running game's going, and how complete they are, I think it's incredibly hard not to go with the Packers. And I'm not going to be one of those bold people that go against that, especially with how the Packers are playing. So that's all I like. The Green Bay Packers are minus 4.5, and the Green Bay Packers straight up. And finally, the Steelers over the Dolphins. This is one where, their third-string quarterback, Devlin Duck Hodges, had his best game, had his first career start in one of the better games as a pro that I've seen, from a third-string quarterback in that situation. I feel like, again, they're going to get a nice little gift here with Miami before they have to play anybody. But just kind of like the same thing that happened. If they can knock out the ball, I think the Dolphins can kind of hold on. Ryan Fitzpatrick is able to make plays throughout, up and down the field. And I remember the Dolphins-Steeler game was one of the Monday Night Football Classic games, which ended 3-2. I don't think it's going to be that bad this time around, but let's wait and see and how that goes for the rest of the year. Also, I just like how Pittsburgh's been able to run the ball more effectively. Their defense got a lot more pressures and sacks on Big Ben than in years past. And I just feel like, again, they're playing a really bad opponent in the Dolphins, who at this point are just trying to just hold on through the year. It's sad knowing that Miami's looked this bad. I think Miami and Cincinnati, are going to have a game together. So that should be a fun game for the loser to get Tua Tagovailoa. But I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers here straight up because I just trust Mason Rudolph and that offensive line to be able to move the ball on the Dolphins and get this victory to send it still within one game, or to be only half a game behind the Cowboys in the NFC East. So that's why I like Miami plus 14.5 but Pittsburgh straight up. So those are my thoughts and comments for all the games this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators. There's Half Moon's Picks, Beetle Bailey, Geo Knows with Billy B, the Electric Football Show, the Red Zone, Rosanna Report, Bridgewater's Finest. All those guys and gals. Boomer Daybon. I'm trying to think of any other great prognosticators. Cody Roy Parker, the Blind Canadian Cat. Check out all those guys and girls that do picks like I do, and see if they have similar or different opinions, and just see if they more align or I align with more of your thinkings for this week. But just please check out all those guys and girls out. Most of their channels in my description. Just give them a look. I think they're all fantastic people. But that's it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fellow fantasy players, or fantasy football players, and fellow prognosticators here, there, everywhere around the world. And until next week for my Week 9 predictions, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until next time, so long.